massive news coming out of Nevada to start the show, and that is both Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz have failed their Nevada Athletic Commission drug screenings. Kevin Iole of Yahoo Sports broke the news that Silva had been subjected to an out-of-competition drug test on January the 9th, with the results of the test being administered by the Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory, and the results were not delivered to the commission until Tuesday of this week. Those results revealed that Silva had tested positive for the banned substances drostanolone and androstane, both being banned anabolic steroids. There were also out-of-competition tests administered on January the 19th, results of which have not come back yet for either Silva or Nick Diaz. On top of this is the news that Nick Diaz failed his post-fight urine test with marijuana metabolites being discovered in the results. It was back in 2013 that the Nevada Athletic Commission raised the allowable level of cannabis in one's system from 50 nanograms per milliliter to 150, and Diaz was still above the limit. This would be the third time Diaz has failed a post-fight drug test with marijuana metabolites discovered, with a 2007 and 2012 test after his fights with Takanori Gomi and Carlos Condit. Both Silva and Diaz will face temporary suspensions at the next NAC hearing happening on February the 17th, and then face punishment at a later date. One of the expected decisions is that Silva's win will definitely be changed to a no contest from this past Saturday night at UFC 183. And John Ramdian joins us. It's rare we get you this early in the show, John. We just can't keep you away. But this is, I believe, one of the bigger stories in mixed martial arts. I think it's a real low point that, I mean, Nick Diaz, you can say whatever you want. I don't think people are going to be giving him the kind of scrutiny. Anderson Silva, though, because of his stature, this guy is such an iconic figure in mixed martial arts. I think this greatly does tarnish his legacy. I think it's a horrible signal just to the outside world that does follow mixed martial arts, and Anderson Silva is a pivotal figure in it.
Anderson Silva maintains his innocence. He says that there's no way he would tarnish his reputation by taking steroids. But, you know, all you have to do is look at the landscape of mixed martial arts, and this is part of the culture. Vitor Belfort tested positive a number of times. He was going to be in the main event against Chris Weidman. We have Bigfoot Silva, who's in the main event against Frank Mir. He tested positive in the past. So it is a sport that has steroids as a part of its culture. And Anderson Silva, whether he took the stuff or not, is irrelevant. Let's just say that he did. A guy coming off of injury, almost 40 years of age. One of the things that drostanolone does is it maintains your muscle mass. So
as you're cutting weight.
As you're cutting weight. So suffering that knee break, he can't do his the strength and conditioning program that he's probably used to. So he takes this stuff to maintain that muscle mass and help with the cutting.
Well, these are anabolic agents,
yep.
John. And I mean, these are the rules. They're right there. And I do have an issue when a guy is putting his body into the cage, and now we're compounding it. Look at, you go find me a highlight reel of Anderson Silva, and then we're adding anabolic steroids to the mix here. I mean, the outside world, you just listed those ones off the top of your head of positives. I think that this perception that this is just simply a drug sport is really starting to permeate of how people view this sport at this point.
It's true. I agree with you, but the fact is, you know, all you have to do is dig into the culture of MMA, talk to the trainers, talk to the fighters. Steroid use runs rampant throughout this sport, and until it changes, I think guys, even at the highest level, you look at Anderson Silva, what happens? Let's say he gets suspended for a year. Okay, I'm 40. You look at Thiago Alves, this guy only fought once a year over the past 3 years. Anderson Silva, he could be coming to the end of his mixed martial arts career. Fighting once a year sounds pretty attractive, especially if you're making $2 or $3 million. You get a slap on the wrist. I'm going to come back as one of the biggest stars. You sign me against George St. Pierre. Come Super Bowl weekend, everything will be fine.
So what's your conclusion? Is that it's not, if you're a fighter that, especially someone at the level of Anderson Silva, you can just stomach the fine, and is there not enough of a deterrent to get rid of this?
I don't think so. I mean, you look at Chael Sonnen. I mean, John Jones, of course, the whole John Jones situation is different, but you know, the whole cocaine use. The fact is that a lot of these athletes just get a slap in the wrist. And I mean, quite frankly, I understand that, you know, this is a dangerous sport. Anderson Silva isn't making the type of money that a Floyd Mayweather would make. And considering the fact that you look at this pay-per-view, it is going to be a huge number, lots of people, lots of eyeballs, but at the end of the day, Anderson Silva is still not going to be taking home $15 or $20 million. So you got to do what you got to do, and you got to keep yourself safe, and you got to keep yourself protected in it. And because of the landscape, you know that a lot of people are taking stuff, and whether they pass the test or not, they're still able to compete. So I can understand why a lot of guys would be, they'll be confused, but at the same time, you got to do what you got to do.
I think that just you look at the fact that here's Reebok coming on board, and already they get Jon Jones thrown at them. There's this. I'm sure there's hesitation of what are we getting into here.
Anderson Silva also said, "Hey, wait a second. I'm a Nike guy. I don't even know if I want to be wearing
Reebok
Reebok."
saying you can have him. Adidas, Nike. We're clear of the Anderson Silva industry.
Yeah, right.
Quickly on Nick Diaz. This is his third time that he has failed a post-fight drug test for marijuana. They tripled the allowable threshold, still was able to clear that. I mean, wow.
Well, because of that, that works in his favor. It's like, oh, we're still not really sure about the whole marijuana thing because the ceiling was here, now the ceiling's here, they're going to find out down the road. You know, they're going to do more testing about this stuff and figure out that it doesn't matter. A fighter will be able to have this in the system moving forward.
Listen, there's going to be nobody that's looking at him and, you know,
this is typical.
Getting upset. I look at this guy who is given these incredible natural gifts, and I don't think any fighter will go down in history for leaving more money on the table than this guy. He could be facing a 2-year suspension for this. I mean, it's just amazing to me at how much talent this guy has, becoming a top draw in this like this show, as you said, is going to do a really big number. And I just look at the number that Nick Diaz has done on his own career.
It's true, but I mean, Nick Diaz, it's not as if he's jazzed about fighting. It's not as if he wakes up and says, you know what, I can't wait to get back in there and compete with these guys. You talk to Nick Diaz, he goes, this stuff hurts. This is a painful sport. I don't want to go in there and get hurt by Anderson Silva. So if he only has to fight once a year, once every 2 years, he makes a lot of money. So I think Nick Diaz will be fine too.
We go to this week's Tweet of the Week, and it comes from UFC commentator Kenny Florian, who writes, all fighters should follow the rules if they want to be a pro fighter, but PEDs, way worse than prescribed or recreational marijuana use, with Florian coming in on the Silva-Diaz drug tests.